Okay. Someone at Atlus may have messed up a little bit, because on their Atlus West Instagram account, somebody did a little bit of an oopsie and posted the Persona 3 Remake and Persona 5 Tactica information that is almost certainly was being saved for the Xbox conference on Sunday. A little bit early, I'd say. I'm not going to show those trailers, because we do have trailers. I'm not going to show those trailers here. I'll react to them when they get released on Sunday, in almost all likelihood. However, full disclosure, I have seen them. And honestly, there's not much to talk about. It's Persona 3 Remake. You want to know what it's like? It's Persona 5, but it's actually Persona 3. That's what it is. It's what we expected it to be. It should be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. Also, the Persona 5 game, Persona 5 Tactica. It's Persona 5, but what if it was Tactics? For those who don't know, Final Fantasy Tactics, triangle strategy. Essentially, you have a grid of characters. They have abilities that can affect certain squares in that grid and whatnot. It's a strategy-based game. It's another adventure with the Phantom Thieves. Looks pretty fun. I'm interested in it. Personally, I am a big advocate for Persona 3 Remake of some variety. I think there is no singular definitive edition for P3, because you had Fez, which gives you the answer, but also gives you those animated cutscenes, but you also have Portable, which in my opinion improves on the combat, and gives you FemMC, who a lot of people really like, as well as additional social links. We don't know exactly what Persona 3 Remake's going to have in that regard, but having a definitive edition where it's not just a dated PS2, PS3 game that we can point to and say, hey, we got a Persona 3 game here for you, I think is beneficial. I would love to see what they add to it, what they're going to implement it alongside the remake, or if it's just going to be a one-for-one remake of the original P3. But hey, what we have so far, at least what I've seen, it looks pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Persona 3 is a really good freaking game, and modernizing it in certain ways, so long as the original spirit of the game and the difficulty of the game is not compromised, in my opinion, could be very beneficial. I think the biggest question mark I'm going to have until they answer this will be, what is the state of the answer? Is the answer going to be incorporated with this remake, or is it not going to be? And if it's not going to be, will it be implemented in like a future DLC, or like Persona 3 Remake Royal, or whatever? Are they going to go something like that? Are they going to treat Persona 3 Remake as a big standalone Persona title, like they did with P5, and iterate on it and give it new additions later on? Those are questions we're going to have addressed and have answered at some point. What is the state of Persona 6? It wasn't announced, still isn't announced, but does Persona 3 Remake mean we're going to have to wait possibly another 5 or so years for Persona 6? It's possible. I don't think that's likely, but it is possible. You know, we had the port of Persona 3 Portable, and now we're having the remake of Persona 3, and it begs the question, they are really leaning into 3. And I've talked about this in previous videos. I read a Reddit post a long time ago, it was years ago, and someone theorized that, hey, Persona 6 could be a follow-up in some capacity to the story of P3. P3 has a very religious subtext to it, especially with the main character and the whole main character being the Messiah. Could they be doing like a 3 days later he came back, or in this case a 3 games later he returns in some capacity? Because the story of P3, funnily enough, was followed up on. It was followed up on not just in the answer, but in Persona 4 Arena. Not many people played that, but yeah, it was followed up. Those characters returned, especially Elizabeth, and her story continued. So could they continue to go in that direction? I don't think we'll have like Makoto back as an MC in Persona 6. I don't think that, but I think characters like maybe Elizabeth or Mitsuru could return in some capacity. And are they just trying to get more people familiarized with the story of Persona 3? Because I don't think they even anticipated that Persona 5 was going to become as popular as it ended up being. I don't think they anticipated that. Persona 5 in general became a phenomenon, and all of a sudden when people thought of Persona, they didn't think of Shin Megami Tensei, or they didn't think of P3 or P4, they thought of Persona 5. They thought of the Phantom Thieves. And whether or not you personally view Persona 5 to be the best game in the series, that is what a lot of people will look to and think of when you say the word Persona. So were they thinking, heck, we have this entire story planned for Persona 6, but nobody's gonna understand any of the context, because barely anyone who's a Persona fan now, or at least a smaller percentage, has actually played P3 to understand these things? How are we gonna address this? Hey, let's use the hype of Persona 5 to funnel that into possibly Persona 3. We do Persona 3 portable ports, get people more familiarized with P3 overall, do a Persona 3 remake, which is a game that can be easily more beloved by a lot of other people because it's a very solid game that can be iterated on in very specific ways to make it exponentially even better and possibly even better received by a modern audience without compromising on its core design philosophies and principles. We can do that while introducing people to the story of Persona 3 and making them care about the characters of Seize, care about the characters of, say, Makoto, Aegis, Mitsuru, Akihiko, Junpei, Rikari. Those characters. We can make them care about those characters, make them learn about those characters, and prep them for whatever we have planned for Persona 6, if that's truly the case. They could also just be saying, you know what, Persona 3, most people only think about Persona 3, 4, and 5, despite the fact 1 and 2 exists. Persona 4 Golden, you don't really need to touch it, it's a solid enough game, it's an amazing game all of itself, it doesn't really need a remake. Persona 3 has these two versions by itself with Fez and Portable. There's not really one definitive edition. Why don't we just cash in on that and make one? They could be going for something like that. We can't really predict until we get, the story of Persona 6. So it's all just theorizing at this point. It's not even my theory, but I just really gravitated towards that theory because I thought it was cool. And I always love it when stories try to do these overarching narratives while still making sense on an individual level. I also think Persona 3 could be the game that might benefit the most from a potential remake. There's a lot of potential here. Tactics, I'm not putting an incredible amount of stock into it. I like games like that. I haven't played too many of them, but they seem interesting enough to me. The name going around is Persona 5 Tactica. It seems interesting. I'll give it a bash. Hopefully it'll be enjoyable. They did tease that there was going to be another Persona 5 game at the end of Strikers. This could be that follow-up, so potentially taking place in the winter time, during winter break. It'll be interesting to catch up with the fantasies again and just see what kind of gameplay we got going here. So overall, I'm very much looking forward to this. On Sunday at the Xbox Games Conference is when I'm fully expecting these trailers to drop, and I'll react to them in full then, alongside any supplementary news we receive at that time. So yeah, stay tuned. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Stay safe. Have a great day. Go play some video games if you can. And as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.